Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. The coronavirus epidemic has made it impossible for the new government to be sworn in by the president. The new Minister of Science and Higher Education, Przemysław Czarnek, tested positive for the virus, and so the ceremony will now take place tomorrow in the presidential palace gardens. Minister Czarnek will be sworn in when possible. In the unanimous opinion of analysts, the greatest challenge for Prime Minister Morawiecki's new cabinet will be dealing with the effects of the epidemic.
Everything indicates that the greatest challenge for the new government will be the coronavirus. Today's planned swearing-in of the new cabinet of Prime Minister Morawiecki did not take place because the newly appointed Minister of Science and Higher Education, Przemysław Czarnek, tested positive for the virus. I would like to inform you that I have just been confirmed as having the coronavirus. I went for a headache checkup in the morning, not wanting to expose the President of the Republic of Poland, the Council of Ministers, and other participants of today's events. I feel good. Don't underestimate the symptoms.
The
coronavirus seems to be the biggest challenge for this government, but also EU issues, and also economic issues, which is Govin's Ministry of Finance, for example, all areas related to exposure to coronavirus. The second challenge is the normalization of relations with the European Commission. According to Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, the new government will be strengthened by appointing Jarosław Kaczyński as Deputy Prime Minister, although some commentators point out that this may to some extent weaken the position of the Prime Minister himself. In addition to Jarosław Kaczyński and Przemysław Czarnek, Grzegorz Puda enters the government, taking over the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, and there is also a great return of Jarosław Gowin, now Deputy Prime Minister and head of the new Ministry of Development and Labor. The government swearing-in ceremony will take place tomorrow in the Presidential Palace Gardens, with the absence of ministers who are ill or placed under quarantine. The absentee swearing-in ceremony will probably take place in 2 weeks after the end of the quarantine ordered for those who had had contact with Przemysław Czarnek since last Friday.
Following remarks by Katarina Barley, a German vice president of the European Parliament, that Poland and Hungary should face financial starvation to force them to comply with the rule of law, the Law and Justice Party has announced that it will submit a motion for her to be relieved of her duties as vice president. The motion will be submitted at a meeting of the leadership of the European Parliament scheduled for tomorrow.
The motion, which is to be submitted by the Law and Justice Party tomorrow, is a result of last week's interview of German politician Katarina Barley with Deutschlandfunk, in which she called for more pressure on Hungary and Poland to uphold the rule of law. When answering a question about what to do next with rebellious countries, Barley spoke about the financial starvation of both countries. The head of the Law and Justice Party delegation in the European Parliament, Ryszard Legutko, announced that he had raised this issue with the President of the European Parliament, David Sassoli.
The Polish Minister of Health, Adam Niedzielski, has called another crisis management team meeting. According to Ministry of Health spokesman Wojciech Andruszewicz, the information on the solution to the matter of increased number of hospital beds and the coordination of patient care in individual provinces of Poland will be announced on Tuesday.
During a press conference, the spokesperson for the Polish Ministry of Health pointed out that the number of coronavirus infections has increased in many provinces. According to Andruszewicz, there are more than 200 new infections in the Lesser Poland, Mazovian and Pomeranian voivodeships. He emphasized the fact that the number of respirators for COVID-19 patients, which is over 830, is sufficient, and that 219 of them are currently in use. Andruszewicz also informed the public that the Minister of Health has called another crisis management team meeting.
United States President Donald Trump, who's been in hospital in Washington, D.C. since Friday as a result of testing positive for coronavirus, is said to be feeling much better already. On Sunday, the American president left the hospital for a brief period in a motorcade to thank his supporters waiting in front of the hospital.
Donald Trump, who was diagnosed with the coronavirus infection on Friday, has since been staying at the Walter Reed Military Medical Center near Washington. There were many contradictory statements made about the president's condition, which the journalists wanted to be explained during a meeting with the White House physician Sean Conley.
You told us that the president was in great shape, had been in good shape and fever-free for the previous 24 hours. Minutes after your press conference, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows told reporters that the president's vitals were very concerning over the past 24 hours. Simple question for the American people. Whose statements about the president's health should we believe?
So the chief and I work side by side, and I think his statement was misconstrued. What he meant was that 24 hours ago, when he and I were checking on the president, that there was that momentary episode of the high fever and that temporary drop in the saturation, which prompted us to act expediently to move him up here. Fortunately, that was really a very transient, limited episode. A couple hours later, he was back up, mild again. I'm not going to speculate what that limited episode was about so early in the course, but he's doing well.
Shortly after the White House conference, Donald Trump himself published a video on the internet in which he asserted his well-being. As he stated, personal experience of the disease has taught him a lot.
We're getting great reports from the doctors. This is an incredible hospital, Walter Reed. The work they do is just absolutely amazing, and I want to thank them all. The nurses, the doctors, everybody here. I learned a lot about COVID. I learned it by really going to school. This is the real school. This isn't the let's read the book school. And I get it, and I understand it, and it's a very interesting thing, and I'm going to be letting you know about it. In the meantime, we love the USA, and we love what's happening. Thank you.
Many Americans showed up near the hospital who supported Donald Trump in his illness.
I've also gotten to meet some of the soldiers and the first responders, and what a group. I also think we're going to pay a little surprise to some of the great patriots that we have out on the street, and they've been out there for a long time, and they've got Trump flags, and they love our country, so I'm not telling anybody but you, but I'm about to make a little surprise visit, so perhaps I'll get there before you get to see me. But I just, when I look at the enthusiasm, and we have enthusiasm like probably nobody's ever had. Our people that love the job we're doing, we have more enthusiasm than maybe anybody.
Donald Trump then appeared in the presidential car and left in front of the hospital. From the back seat of the vehicle, Trump, wearing a mask, greeted the Republicans who supported him and then returned to the hospital. The media heated up a discussion about the legitimacy of the departure of the coronavirus-infected president, but the Republicans greatly appreciated this gesture.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programs. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.